Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Love Experience Show. I am your host, Ashley J. And I have a very, sorry, y'all. I have a very special guest on with me today, Miss Janice Minor. And I don't know, her and my mom, they have been friends for a really long time. How long have y'all been friends, Miss Janice?
16 years.
16 years.
Yeah.
So she is going to talk to us today about love eroded, love vacated, and love restored. Um, as you guys know, I am your host, and I am also a relationship coach and dating coach. And this show is all about love, but the caveat is it's not all about fairy tale love. It is about any type of love experience anyone has had, whether you're single or married or in between. It doesn't matter where you are. This is what the show is about because the goal of the show is to help somebody, if depending on where they are in their life. Hopefully, these stories will resonate with people and help them. All right, Miss Janice. So, you want to tell everybody about who you are?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I am so glad to be here with Ashley. My name is Janice Minor, and I'm a mother. I am a wife of 40 years. I'm a grandmother. I have two fantastic grandboys. And I am a business owner. I am the creator of Reset and Restore. It is a health and wellness business that teaches people how to take control of their eating situations, how to alternate and change their eating habits, some good substitutes to put into your daily practice, and to understand that weight control and weight management is not all about what you put on your plate. It encompasses a lot of things, and if one of those things is out of balance, which could be your love life, then
Mm.
your weight situation will be hampered with stress and sickness and chronic problems. So that's what I do.
And this is probably what a whole lot of us need right now. I know I personally need to talk to Miss Janice, not on here, about things that I can do to tweak my health because I have been in the bed all week from a flare up. But I am here, y'all. And yes, we can all use some guidance and some coaching on how to make our health better.
Great.
So, you want to go ahead and tell us about love? Hold on, I lost it.
Love eroded, love vacated, and love restored.
Yes.
I'm going to start really quickly to tell you a little bit how I got this. And
Okay.
I said in the beginning, I'm a wife of 40 years, and I've come to the conclusion that most times when couples meet, it's usually a physical connection. They see that person and it's like, it's an aha type thing. It's like, I want to get to know her. I want to get to know him. And it's after they sit down, have a conversation, see what they have that's bouncing around in common, that draws them together. And
Mhm.
a lot of us have experienced that emotional feeling of love. When I know when my husband and I first got together, we would be on the phone, falling asleep, listening to each other breathe,
Yes.
not saying anything. And all the little thoughtful things that, he would do because he heard me mention it, on a conversation. And it was just like, oh man, my love cup is overflowing. We're going to be together with this great, relationship forever. Then we get
Mhm.
married and things start to kind of change a little bit. That's where the erosion um, comes in. I came into my marriage with a lot of baggage. I hear a lot of people say that they brought baggage into their marriage. Well, I had trunk loads of stuff that I brought into this marriage, and I did not reveal it to my husband. I was holding on to it. I kind of coined a phrase that I think conversation and transparency is like having a physiological effect on your relationship. And what
Mm.
I mean by that is if you are not transparent with, what you've been going through or things that really, really annoy you, because in the beginning, we think those little things are cute. But then after we're together for a while, they become very annoying. And the way that
Very true.
we relate to our spouse about it is not in such a loving way. You know, it's like, look here, you're getting on my nerves. You know, I you need to go somewhere with that. Not the type of kindness that's like, well, you know, honey, when you say this, it makes me feel like that. You know, we
Mhm.
hadn't grown to that point. And I had been married before. When I met my husband, I had come out of a horrible, horrible marriage that it was some physical um, erosion in there. We had had a physical fight, physical confrontation, and if it was not from that motherly instinct, that fight or flight that raised up in me, because my daughter at that time was, I believe she was 3 months old, and
Mhm.
so I didn't know if he was going to hurt her as he was hurting me. So that that motherly instinct took over. He hit me a couple of times. So I was in the kitchen, got this black cast iron skillet. And I said, Lord, if David could kill a giant with 3 stones, let me knock him out with a skillet. So I was able to to knock him out and take our child and flee. And I never went back. But that was a horrible emotional scar left in my heart, in my mind. It put a horrible taste in my mouth about men. Um, and
Mhm.
I had dated a little before I met my husband now, and I would never let anybody get close enough to me because I had this grandeur idea of marriage, but I looked at it through the lens of what I had gone through. And
Mhm.
this is why I think your show is so great, Ashley, because people get to talk, they get to tell about their experiences. Well, way back then, I had nobody to talk to about this. Nobody in my family was divorced. And when I kind of mentioned it, it was like taboo, or, you know, it's something you're not doing right, Janice. And it was always, you know, it was me. It wasn't, you know, the combination of us both. So I hid that and I kept that deep inside. So when my husband wanted to have conversation and talk, because he was a witty, funny guy in the beginning. And I, I was very closed. And every time he would do something that would remotely remind me of that trauma that I had in my first marriage, or if he would come home from work and had a bad day, but the look in his eyes or the way he was throwing down, you know, the his briefcase at that time, or throwing off his jacket or his keys, I would immediately get that uh,
Mhm.
fear that would raise up.
Mhm.
And it was like, oh, this is not going to happen to me again. And he was nothing like that. That wasn't what was on his mind at all. So with that came like an erosion because he wanted to talk. I didn't want to talk. You know, when he asked me how things were, everything was fine. That was my key answer. Fine, fine, everything is fine. When we know deep inside, it's not fine.
It's
I
not.
began to throw myself into church activities, which a lot of us who have the experience of growing up in church, we do, because it was my escape. When I was there, I didn't feel pressure. You know, I felt like, oh, just the love of God. And I didn't think about my marriage relationship, to the fact that I was in church so much. Now my husband was resenting the fact that I wasn't there for him. It's like all you do is go to church 6, 7 days a week. Anytime somebody asks you to do something, I never say, well, I got to check with my husband. It's like, oh, okay, this is for God. Yeah, let me run for it. Um, and that's where corrosion and erosion started happening. But Ashley, I wasn't wise enough to notice that at that time.
Mhm.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of us. We don't note when there's a distance or a pulling away, or we don't even note when there's a change in the way we're feeling about a situation. Um, so this went on for a long period of time, and then conversation stopped. We didn't talk. Nothing was funny anymore. Everything became very cynical and
Mhm.
sarcastic. Um, our date night became going to the movies where you didn't have to say anything. You just sit there for 2 hours. The whole thing is like, well, we were together, but we
Right.
weren't really together. And so I found other things in the community to get involved with. He found, playing basketball and doing other things with other guys. So we were not, together. Um, we had our children, and while our children were small, that would feel my time. It wasn't really feeling his, but it was feeling my time. And then I had, no energy to be the wife that he needed, in our quiet time. And then I was home watching things on television, and I wanted my love life to look like that. And
Oh, yes.
that was not what he was doing. So then
Yes.
that brought even more things in that neither one of us, really wanted to talk about. So after this went on for, periods of time, the vacating, when I said love vacated, we were together as cohabitating in the same house.
Mhm.
We lived together. We would say the very minimal that we had to say to each other, but we knew it our appearance, we knew what it should look like. So when we were out among people, oh, we had it down pat. Nobody knew that there was trouble in the minor household. And this was affecting our children in a way that I had no idea that it was affecting them.
Hmm.
I know every marriage, from being married so long, every marriage goes through its ups and downs and its challenges. My mom and dad told me that to never argue in front of our children, never have disagreements in front of our kids, even if I felt what my spouse was doing wasn't correct. Wait until after it was over and talk to them later. I never saw my mom and dad
Mhm.
have an argument ever. But and I thought married couples didn't argue. And once
Right.
I was in this relationship, I knew, well, no, he just reminded, that just came back up to my remembrance that not to argue in front of the kids. Well, I didn't do that because if I didn't get my point across right when it was there, I felt I was going to forget it or he wouldn't listen to me later. So it's like, no, this is the time. This is the time I want to bring your attention to what's happening now. And that became another mountain in the relationship because we were parenting differently.
Mm.
We weren't communicating about, our relationship as husband and wife. And now we weren't communicating about our relationship as how we would parent, our children, other than the fact that they had to be obedient, not to get into trouble. They had to go to school, these type things. But far as just spending the time and letting them talk, everything became the Cliff Note version for my husband because
Mhm.
he didn't want to deal with me and I had to give him the Cliff Notes if I wanted to say anything. Then that rubbed off, to the kids, and they all had different personalities. One was a chatterbox, just talks all the time. The other one was just like him, could give you 1, 2, 3. This is what I need. This is what I see as a solution. Can you help me? And that's it. And the other one was like, can we just get along? Can we just get along? So we had all of that in the mix of at the time that there was not really any love going on in the house. And that was hard because what we were trying to do was piece together and um, put together a relationship and a home when that love didn't dwell in. And you
Mm.
can't do that. I mean, you have the greatest of all gifts is love. I think I said before, I think the question you asked was what was God, what was it? Um, how do I feel about love or what do I can't remember the question, but
Are you talking about on the forum?
yes.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
I
My brain just froze.
Oh, okay. But I think I know my answer was that I feel that love is God's greatest or it is his ultimate gift to us and to our relationships. And when we don't look at that as an ultimate gift, I don't think we protect it, the way that we should.
I think that is very true. We don't think about, a lot of us don't think about love as something that needs to be protected. It needs to be protected just like we need to protect our children,
Mhm.
or just like we need to protect our relationships.
Mhm.
It needs to be protected just like that. And it also needs to be nurtured.
That's
And so it can grow. And a lot of people miss what, which is why I created this course.
mhm.
Shameless plug, but a lot of people don't think about intimacy and the different levels of intimacy that needs to be added into your relationship. And intimacy is, in my opinion, the foundation of any relationship,
It is.
because you can be intimate with your friends,
Mhm.
and it's the foundation of any relationship. And if you're going to have a marriage and you want the marriage to last a lifetime, you have to have intimacy.
That's true.
And as I say in the course, and I'm gonna tell y'all, intimacy is far more than just sex.
That's right.
It's not just the only thing. Okay,
That,
there's 7 different types of intimacy that needs to be nailed
mhm.
in each relationship.
You guys
Um,
come in and take this course.
what I wanted to ask you, when before you guys got married,
Mhm.
did you have any conversations about what you wanted your marriage to look like?
No. And
No.
ironically enough, I think about now, it was like in our mind, we could go for strolls in the park or, you know, go to get ice cream and we would think about, wow, we just want this feeling to always stay. But we didn't really talk about the nuts and bolts of what really holds a relationship together. Um, and there's this old saying about you shouldn't assume. Assume is making a something of yourself. Okay, well, we assumed that because we had gotten to the we were out of college, good age, working, that we knew exactly what we wanted as the foundation. But what he thought was a foundation and what I thought was the foundation was as different as the East is from the West, because
Mhm.
the way I viewed finances, he viewed it a different way. The way I viewed planning for vacations or family gatherings, he viewed it a different way. Um, and we didn't know any of this until we got together and decided that these were some of the things that we were going to do. And I uh, I know that um, that has great value on, or it devalues your intimacy when you are not communicating on the foundations or having these discussions before you say I do. You know,
Mhm.
it's it's really important that you understand how you're going to build your household, how many children you want. I already had one from a bad relationship and I didn't want any more. He wanted a
Mhm.
whole baseball field, a whole baseball team. And it's like, what? And I didn't find this out until after, we were married. I knew he wanted more children. And he was so loving with my daughter, which now he would cut my head off if I said my daughter. She's our daughter. He never ever treated her as if she was not, his
Yeah.
own flesh and blood. And I thought so until we had his own flesh and blood. I saw he treated them both the same. But he was so nurturing. And I later found out that was his plot to getting me to say yes to him, because he knew, he felt the weight of my heart was the way he treated my child and the way he treated my mother. And to him, this was a game that he was playing to get me to say I do. And then he could mold or change the relationship the way he wanted it. And I caution everybody in a new relationship um, to get all of this clear, because holding hands and looking starry eyes in each other's eyes, and that snuggle that you get, that's great, and that needs to be in there. That's a part of that intimacy. But the foundation of intimacy is your trust and your communication level, and your building together, financially, and your agreement on how you're going to parent, your children, and what you feel about each other's family, blending families. And if you don't consider these things before you say yes, and then you go down the aisle, and a year and a half later, you're wondering, you know, did the invasion of the body snatchers come in and take my spouse? you have
Right.
you have to, these are really, really important questions and issues, I think, that we have to talk about. And a lot, I had mentioned this before, talking to your mom, and I tell this on my story, when I'm telling my story, that we're married 40 years, and I lived 37 years in misery. And most of that misery was, you would get to the point of, I can't take it anymore, we've got to get a divorce. Neither one of us wanted to be the first to say goodbye. You know,
Mm.
it was only two in his family, there was only two in my family. He hadn't been the product of a divorce, neither, had I. And I didn't want to start that legacy, neither did he. But more than that, I think it was the commitment that we both felt that we made, that we were never going to break. And that was the vow to God when we did our marriage vows, and we said, to death do us part, in sickness and health. And we had gotten to that place that we understood that marriage was an institution that God had created, and that he tells us in his word that we have to be willing and obedient to have the good things of the land. And we understood that this controversy and this discord that we were going through was not the good of the land, because we decided, okay, we know what God says is best, but I feel like what I'm saying is better. So until we got to that place where we could just say, look, enough is enough. We're either gonna, make this right, take it back, to the throne of God, and ask for forgiveness for what we've done and learn from it, or we're going to say, okay, God, your word says that you're faithful and just to forgive us and cleanse us of all unrighteousness. So if I make a bad mistake, I'm going to say, okay, I made a mistake. Now I'm repenting from it, and move on. But we knew that that was not the best. And we knew that there was something that drew us more than just physical attraction and laughter. Something deeper had brought us together. And it wasn't until we had gotten to the point that we decided, okay, well, we're not going to get a divorce, but we'll separate. You'll go to your house, and I'll go to my house, and we're going to come back together when it's time to go to bed, because we that was good for us. And then one day we thought, are you, and I know it was the Holy Spirit that said, are you stupid? What is wrong with you? This is not a reason. And I decided that I was going to work on myself and just work on me. Hopefully, the transparency and the difference would allow my husband to look at himself differently, and then we could start all over. The foundation was already rocky. We could knock it down and put a new foundation and build from that point upward. And I can tell you, when we made that decision, that's when love was restored in our relationship. I mean, it was restored in such a magnitude that it was unrecognizable, for me and my house. And the great thing about love is, when you go through these experiences for the better, you don't go through them with a woe is me attitude, but you go through it with the attitude that I'm going to learn something from this. I don't want this to keep repeating itself the way the destruction or the hurt repeated itself. And so now you're very cognizant about what you say to each other, the attitude of how the other person is feeling, and you show more kindness. And I
Mhm.
think when you show more kindness, even in the face of not getting kindness shown back to you, when you continue to do that and make a practice of it, then things, it changes. Things totally change. And I would admonish anybody, whatever it is they're going through, whatever their baggage is, whether they brought it into the marriage or the relationship, or whether it manifested, after they had been together for a while. Don't keep it secret. We know that our spouse is supposed to be our best friend and our life partner, but instead of bringing all these hurts and our desires and what's becoming, like that annoyance for us, instead of bringing it to our spouse, we are habitually taking it to our best friend to keep it in secret, or to take it to our parents and ask, and we unload everything on them. And we feel like we have to gather into a basket all of these different ideas, and then we're going to, pick the best one, apply
Yes.
for the situation before we go talk to our spouse about it. And what I realize is they know that we're doing this. So when we come to talk to them, it's like you already, you've gathered all this ammunition from your from your friends. So
Yes.
what you're asking me for?
Yes. 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 That has been that was a topic of conversation for many years in my marriage, in my relationship. Well, I know you talked to your mom about this, so why are we talking about it? But the point is, y'all, we need to talk to our significant others just as much as we talk to our best friends
That's
and
right.
talk to our parents, whoever that person is for you, that you're able to vent and unload everything. You can't be afraid to do that with your significant other.
That's right. That's right. That's a key word, Ashley. It's like that fear. I think we become so guarded that we think if we sit down and have this conversation with our spouse, that we already have predetermined in our mind how they're going to react, what they're going to say. So we replay a story that may look nothing like it if we sit there in kindness and honesty. And to know we have the ability to rewrite the story. It
Mm,
could have been horrible. It could have been, loveless. It could be full of argument or full of anger or full of, deceit or full of deception. But we can change that story. We can write the story the way we see it in our heart, to be.
mhm,
But that only comes about when we are honest and transparent, because you can't have a transformation in your marriage if there is no transparency there. And we've got to learn to listen to our spouse, either or, whether it's the male or the female, when we talk, because in each relationship, one talks more than the other, one one use more body language than the other.
yes.
And we've got to learn, especially for me, I had to learn not to interrupt. Just let him get it all out, whatever it is. Not, start the conversation and he start and I would say, see, that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. I can't do that anymore. I have to let him get it totally out. And a lot of times, I don't agree with, his outlook or how he views something, but I can now say, well, I can respect your feelings. I can respect this is the way that you feel. Now I'd like to share with you how I feel or how I see this situation. And then when I do it, usually he says now, well, okay, how can we merge this together? How can we make this work? And I want to say, woohoo! Finally. But and it is that continual working progress and process, because when we were dating, oh man, if we found out our spouse liked something, we would go overboard to make sure it looked that way or felt that way, or we went to that place that they wanted to go. And then
Mhm.
when we started having difficulties in our relationship, it's like we don't even care about those things anymore, because it's like you got to look right here at the nucleus of this problem before we can add any of that stuff, back into the relationship. And that's actually looking at it from an upside down, view. And
It,
when we make our mind up, sometimes we feel like I've just had enough. I am not going through this anymore. Nobody, because when we're in it, we think nobody's had it as bad or is being as misunderstood, as we are.
yeah. Yep.
So we have to understand that, listen, there is hundreds of people going through the same thing that I'm going through right now. So now I'm going to step back, take a deep breath, and ask myself, you know, is this worth fighting for? If it's worth me putting the effort, is it worth me seeking out people, like you, having the coach to just to bounce some things, my feelings off of, and getting the ammunition to go back and sit down and say, okay, I've learned a better way, to
Mhm.
approach these things.
One question that I keep thinking about because I find it very interesting that you two didn't talk about what you wanted marriage to look like before getting married. So, how did you make it to 37 years with that question never or that topic never coming up?
It came up, but it came up with the things like, oh, well, so you want a house with it would be cynical. It was like, okay, you want the American dream. You want a house, a picket fence, two kids and a dog, and you're gonna be
Mhm.
happy. And I was like, well, yeah, doesn't everybody? So instead of him saying, well, I would be just as happy living in a condo somewhere because I don't want to take care of grass. I don't want to have all these maintenance things. When I decide I want to go somewhere, I don't want a dog. I want to just jump up and be able to go. We didn't talk about those because he felt that it was more important to make me happy than to make himself happy. And
Mhm.
that was a problem because you can't just keep giving and giving and giving and never receiving, anything. And we came from different backgrounds where my parents were active and we had an active family. We would have gatherings and aunts and uncles, cousins, grandparents, we would all get together. Now my husband came from a family where it was the two of them and they never got together with family.
Mhm.
They lived in Harlem and they would get together for the complex would have like a playing cards outside or having a picnic or a barbecue. But those aren't people that should be influential, you know, in the building of your relationship.
Mhm.
So I think there was fear in that, having that conversation. He was afraid that if he let me know that he really didn't have a clear picture of what he wanted it to look like, and my picture was distorted. He never knew my picture was distorted. I didn't tell him anything about all the stuff that I was coming in with. He viewed me as a strong Black woman who could go through anything. But my strength became, even though I was strong, um, I became what I don't consider a strength. I consider it being closed and guarded. Um, and when you are guarded, you don't let in all the good things, that a marriage or a relationship um, would have. And
Mhm.
that is the first mistake I believe that we made, not sitting down, having that conversation, um, because you're setting yourself up for failure when you don't have these conversations before you get married. And I think that's why a lot of people go on with, I've often wondered, how can you date somebody for, you know, 10, 15 years and you say this is going to be your life's partner and you haven't made it down to the altar yet. 3 to 5 years and you haven't made that decision yet. And it's because you haven't had that important conversation that you're talking about. And the other person is waiting, like, when are they going to get to the meat, of
Mhm.
that, because that's like glue that really holds us together. And a lot of people have said that. I cannot imagine, because if you didn't have that glue there to hold you guys together, how did you do it? And I said, we tread water. Our nose was right above the water. We were able not to drown. Um, we would go under, but then we would come back up. but it's all because that, that conversation and that foundation wasn't laid, or it wasn't made plain in the beginning. And
Was it, I'm sorry.
no, no, go on.
Was it hard to make the adjustments after you guys did, say, okay, we need to rebuild this and try to make things better? Was the adjustment difficult?
No,
No?
quite the contrary. The adjustment was real easy
Okay.
because we knew all those things we did all those years did not work at all. So it's like,
Okay.
okay, we have to make a course correction or we're going to fall completely off this cliff. And so no, and then there was an excitement about making the correction, um, which
Okay.
which is really, really, really good. I don't know if your mom had shared with you, but I had a friend for years who had gone through a relationship pretty much like mine, but she didn't know about mine. She told me all about hers. I wouldn't dare let anybody know what was going on in ours. And I don't know why, but I told he left. And he left. He filed for divorce. She didn't want a divorce. She really wanted the marriage to work. And I said, what you should do is every day, when you get up to make breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever, the times that you guys sit down to eat, set a table plate for him. Make a name plate and put it on his plate and talk to him about the things that are meaningful, and make the apologies, to him, and see him back there sitting at the table, see him, in the house. And she did this for a couple of years. And then one day he knocked on the door and he wanted to come home. Now, I don't know what prepared her to just say, okay, come on in. They had, the conversation, they forgave each other, and they're still married today. They made a big decision to move to another geographical area where they didn't know many people and start all over totally again. But their marriage thriving too. And
Wow.
so I think it's you've got one of you have to make the decision that I'm not going to hurt the other partner because I'm hurting, and decide, is this worth it to me, if it's important enough to me. And it's got to be beyond, okay, we're going to stay together because of the kids, or
Yeah.
we're in so much, we've got a mound of debt, and we got to stay here now, I'm in it because of a financial reason. It's got to be far beyond any of that. um, so I feel that first you've got to decide, not make a decision that I'm going to work out all these problems. You've got to decide, I want to be with this partner. And then things kind of have a unique way of, you know mapping itself back to the original purpose of love. And
Mhm.
all of this is experiences that we all go through. I can honestly say there was no alcohol abuse or drug abuse. There was no uh, physical abuse, in the relationship, but it was so much mental abuse. And I know there had been years that I thought I would rather, be in a fight. I would rather be locked out of the house, all these other things I would rather happen than to daily take a dose of mental, you know, beating, a mental battle. And you never knew what to expect. You never knew if it was going to be, riding along smoothly, if it was going to be up or if it was going to be down. Um, you know, I felt like I invested stock. I should have invested stock in the Kleenex company. But it gets to the place if you start listening to yourself, because I would give really, really good advice to other people going through bad situations, because I knew how they felt because I was in it. But I didn't I didn't take the same advice that I would give out. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important that we hear, I mean, really hear what we're saying uh, to ourselves, as well as what we're saying, to our partner.
Absolutely. It's plenty of times you can, okay, I'll use this as an example. Being a therapist, you can actually be depressed and you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to about it, but you have a client who's just as depressed as you are, and you're like, you know what, you need to go outside and you need to take a run. You need to just lay in the sun, let that boost your hormones and everything. And but you are stuck in the house, don't want to do anything, and you just want to remain depressed.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what I think about
Uh-huh.
when it comes to giving other people advice. You just, you don't listen to your own advice.
Exactly, exactly. What happened to me is I would get up every morning because um, I felt I was unlovable. I felt like, um, I had this scowl or sadness look on my face. And even though I would smile, but there was a sadness in my eyes. So I felt like, okay, he doesn't love me, or he can't love me because he doesn't see any joy or happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Or he doesn't love me because, you know, I'm I would eat the wrong things all the time, trying to fill a hole or a gap. Or he doesn't love me because I live in sweats and I don't put any clothes. I don't dress up. I don't dress up for him. Or he can't love me because I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to watch any shows. I just wanted to curl up and be by myself. And it was a real big push for me to just get up and and love myself enough to do these things for me. And that's another thing. We have to do helpful healing things for ourselves before we can heal, our relationship. Because
Yeah,
if you're not healing or going through a healing process, you can't expect to heal, a broken relationship, a broken marriage.
you can't. And I saw a quote one day, and I totally 100% agree with this quote. You have to be the partner that you want for yourself.
Yes, yes.
You have to be that partner that you want for yourself. Like, whatever you want to okay, we're women, so whatever we want to manifest, our husband to manifest, we need to do that, and show him what we want.
That's
And then it'll turn and become reciprocated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And sometimes I wonder if it's because do we really know what we want?
A lot of times we don't. We think we do. We think we do. Like you said, you had this grand idea of what marriage is. And the marriage, your parents' marriage was an example for you. And then when it's time to get married, you start to realize, okay, this is not what it was, and what I really want. Actually, I really don't want this relationship to be that way.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So we have to, ladies, when it's time to really start to think about um, getting married, you have to really sit down and do an evaluation on you to
Mhm.
see what it is that you want in your marriage. What do you want marriage to look like? What do you want you to look like as a wife?
And are you
And
ready for it?
are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot to take on, especially when you have situations where you're not just marrying somebody, you're marrying their family. You're blending your families. That's hard.
It is.
It's really hard, and it's a lot to consider before walking down that aisle.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's a there were key factors in there because after I met the family, I knew I knew that this was going to be a lot of work. It was either you're going to love him enough to work through all that, or you're going to say, listen, we need to be real good friends, but we are just too different. Our backgrounds are too different. This isn't going to work. And I think that because I was so starved for love because of the bad relationship, that I dismissed all of that. But like
Mm,
you said, it's blended, so all of that came in. It came into the relationship. Um, and if you if you want if you want your partner, just as you said with that quote, if you want your partner to be what you want, you have to show him what you want. And here lately, well, I'm not going to go to here lately, because even when we were having problems, my husband knew that I loved flowers. And
Mm.
every week he would bring me a bouquet of fresh flowers. Whether we just had a knockdown drag out, whether we slept in different rooms for a month, whether we, whatever it is, he would still come in with these fresh flowers. And I got to the place that I thought, I don't even like these flowers anymore. What is this for? And I thought, it's like those were the key signs to let me know it's really not time to let go, because why is he still doing this? He knows you like these things, and he's doing this. Um, there would be times when money was real tight, and he would know that it was a specific restaurant that I really like to go to, and he would save, wouldn't even tell me, but he's saving little, and then he would say, let's go to whatever this restaurant is because I know you like to go. And I'm thinking, well, we're not even really talking, but he would still do, he would still do these things. So I would suggest that the other people who are gleaming things from the show is to look for those telltale signs, those little signs. It may not be anything big, but if it's a little sign, then that can burst into big flames and develop, the love that you want, the love walk that you need.
Yes, because even though, whatever happened, with you guys, like you said, you guys could have had a knockdown, drag out fight, whatever, he still wanted to make you happy. He still wanted to do the things that he knew was going to make you happy. So that is so important because most people, if you are not trying to, make the relationship, the marriage go any further, you're not going to do the things that person likes.
That's
You
right.
just do whatever you want to do. I don't care. Whatever. Just don't bother me.
That's, that's right. And then we have to learn how to do the things that they want, some of the
Yes.
things that they, even if it makes you feel like you just want to regurgitate.
Yes.
To do this anyway. And when we do it, it's like it softens the whole atmosphere, and things can change. But you got to get to that place that you want it to be soft, because when there's no love there, everything is hard. You're all tense. You're tensed all the time. You don't want to come home, or you don't want him to come home. So it's like you've got to, pep yourself up. You've got to look in the mirror and tell yourself some good things about you. Just like we do vision boards for, where we see ourselves in the next, 12 months, 3 months, 3 years, 5 years down the road. We need to do that. I think we need to do that in our relationship, where we want to see this, and not that far down the road, where we want to see it in 3 months, where we want to see it in 9 months, where we want to see it in a year. And as you see that progression through that year, then the next year you employ those same things. And before you know it, it's like, wow, I can't believe, the total change. And a good thing is when these things start changing, we don't point out those bad things that used to be like, pricking us. They don't even prick us as bad anymore.
That is actually some of the advice in my daily videos that I do. That I think in the beginning of the year I did one and I said, listen, for couples, you need to sit down and write out some couple goals for the year. What you want to happen weekly, what you want to happen daily and monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And for the whole year, that sit down, y'all hash it out together, make the time to do that because it's going to help you develop as the year goes on. And then you're also committing yourself to your relationship, to your marriage.
That's right. Ashley, one of the biggest things in that is I could not get my husband to sit down and to work out a plan. I'm sure you remember this movie. Uh, was it called Fireside or Fire? Fire?
The with Kirk Cameron,
Yes, yes.
fireproof.
Fireproof. And two of my children secretly sent us the book and the workbook. And I told my husband, I said, listen, we need to go through this. We really need to go through this, and we need to do this together. And he threw the book across the room and he says, I don't need this. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Just because somebody put it in a book, I'm not doing that. And I did it by myself. And I saw, it's like, oh man, there are so many applicable things that if we would sit there and do. And but we never finished it together. But I think in his mind, or not just in his mind, I think in his quiet time, he may have went through it and read it, but we did not sit down together to do that. And that's really important, to be able to sit down and do that together.
Yes, it is. Guys, if you have any questions or comments that you would like to ask or say, now is the time to get them in. This is a really great conversation, and if you guys have something to say, let's go ahead and get to it. Okay. Another great book, which is one that Tariq and I used when we were engaged, was the Five Love Languages. And we did the work inside of the book. We sat down, I think it might have been every night or maybe once a week. I can't remember, but we sat down at a designated time and we would read the chapter and we would go through the work that was in the book. And I highly recommend that you guys, if you are thinking about getting married or if you are on the trail of getting married, get the book, and also looking to get in fireproof. And even watch the movie beforehand if you want to, before purchasing the book. But I highly suggest that these would be two great resources for you and your significant other to look at and use to help you make that transition into marriage, because sometimes the transition is difficult. And when that first year is the adjustment, and you get into a lot of arguments in that first year. Even if you were living together before you got married, you still get into those arguments. It's like once you get married, the relationship just goes to a different level. And if you've heard people that's been together, say 20 years, but they got married, and then after they got married, they broke up, they got a divorce. Mm-hmm. Well, they were able to live as boyfriend and girlfriend for all of those years, but once they crossed over to getting married, it's a different situation. So you guys really need to look into those resources because they're so helpful. Tariq and I, we learned a whole lot about each other when we did Five Love Languages. We learned a lot about things that I never even thought about asking. Like I thought I was doing my research on questions to ask yourself before getting married and this, that, and the third. And I thought I had it down. But once we got into the book and started really reading it and learning it, I was like, okay, this has changed. Okay, I need to change my mind about that, because it's helpful, is my point.
You were open-minded. You have to have an open mind when you approach this. It can't be like, no, this is my way. This is how I want it, because now it's going to be the two of you meshing together.
Yes, absolutely. All of that single-minded stuff has to go out the window.
Right, that's right.
Because you are making a commitment to someone else, so you're not going to be single anymore.
Just like, there was a saying that, Ashley, that says, years ago, it says marriage is a 50-50 give and take. And I never agreed with that at all. It's 100% on both parts, but you've got to give 100%. You've got to take 100%. And I think that's when you can get through tough times, knowing that this tough situation isn't going to last always. But as you take it, you give out love and you give out kindness and you give out respect, and it changes.
It definitely does. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and look at these comments on YouTube. My mother says hello.
Hi.
My aunt Linda says hello to us, and I believe her comment saying married singles, I think is what she was referring to the way you guys started out your marriage as married singles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, she also said, love is God's ultimate gift, protect and nurture. Hi, Miss Renee Jackson. She was on last week. She's saying hello. Uh, my husband says you have to talk to your spouse. Yes, you do. My mom says my friends make me look good.
She is. She is. You are good.
um, Tariq said when you were talking about all the different things that you have to discuss, he said no dog, which we had that discussion actually. In reference to the friend you were telling us about, he said they sound like a movie.
They do.
Um,
That's right.
Miss Alfreda, hello.
Hi, Frida.
Um, she says, so true, you have to know yourself. And my husband says he guess he needs to buy a bag of grass when you were saying, oh my goodness.
Tell
My mom told
tell
me,
your husband after all these years, my husband has been converted from the concrete of New York City to the lush grass of a lawn.
yes. um, my mom told him grass won't work. And he said, learn to eat squirrels, perhaps. He's a character. Miss Alfreda said that's what my daughter and her husband did. What did they do, Miss Alfreda? I'm not sure at what point you said that. Um, my mom said, watch Fireproof. That's a good movie. It is a good movie. And it shows you that all things with God can change the course of a relationship, because I believe the wife was the one that was done with the marriage in Fireproof, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
I want to put this plug in. I think all younger people in Ashley's generation, this is a phenomenal talk show for anybody, but in her era of age, it's really different. Their mindset, it's different. Usually there is two working people, or they've been out working for a long time by themselves. The model that I used for my family that I thought, oh, for my mom and dad was so great. Well, that was way back in the day. And my dad worked and my mom stayed home. I mean, her job was taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, going grocery shopping, getting the things that he wanted, ironing his clothes, ironing sheets that I'm not, a lot of things that way. And then I thought, this is why it was easier, how they viewed their roles. And today, it's like a partnership of all of that, because if both of you are working, both of you get tired, both of you need to help take care of the kids, both of you need to help with dinner or the cleanup, and taking out the trash is not just the man's responsibility, just like cooking is not just the woman's responsibility. So there's some different things that come into play that we have to be, or the younger generations have to open their minds set to say, I'm not saying I'll never do this, or I'm not going to do this. You fill in where you need to fill in until that love just explodes in that
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, if you don't have anything else for us, then we are out of time. I've really enjoyed this chat with Miss Janice, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Um, you know what to do. You need to like, share, and subscribe. Next week, do a watch party, do something so that we could get more people in on what I like to think of as the movement, the Love Experience Show movement. Okay. And let's see, anything else? I don't have any other announcements for you. Oh, for all my couples, if you are interested, which I know you are because you need to come and see me October 8th through the 10th of this year, I will be hosting the All In for Love Couples Getaway, okay, here in Georgia. So you need to be here because
Ooh, we're coming.
the theme for this year is commitment. So you need to be here October 8th through the 10th. Okay. All right, y'all. You know what my next question is? What is your love experience? Till we chat again, you guys.
Bye-bye.